So basically the pathway towards a knowledgeable idea, meaning finding one's own true, full, desired outcomes that you already achieved. So to know when you were wrong and when you were right. That's kind of difficult, I believe. Like, a lot of people have problems with that. So at first I would say good and evil is always a topic, but how do you defeat it? How do you get to the idea that good and evil are in conjunction with each other, but don't overthrow you anymore? I always say thought patterns, like build worlds around your mind, get ideas, use the inner compass, something like this I would always say. But there's rather also a different idea to it. You could do something else, meaning you basically can solve the questions you have by disregarding conjunctions. What he wanted to say. Basically, you tire out what you want to achieve. Yeah, pretty much. Meaning, you basically try to understand how the evil forms a conceptual compass idea around your soulless sire in lyrics expressed. So basically what I would do is instruction manual, not on guarantee or any word. Step 1, view how the bad thoughts intertwine with the good ones so that they reveal new hidden. Step 2, watch the shadows form around, meaning try to light up the darkest abyss, meaning you, as step 2, expressively expressed, or formulate, you try to understand what the conjunction does with further arguments you can hold about the same process. Step 3, you try to understand what arguments do to power, and in step 4, truth. What and how is power, or your own degree of power, influencing the truth you want to achieve? So step 3 would be basically, which power sets, which ideas do I want to implement into my spirit? And step 4, how does it change my perspective on truth? And that's how you basically, in my mind, can have a good conjunction and interjunction between good and evil. And from there, it's fairly easy to come to a knowledgeable outcome. You can do this by a compass, by a map, by a meaning seismograph. So whenever your spirit rebels against your ideas to vanquish desire or fulfill desire, meaning if you want to cook something with your wife, like me, and you want to cook something new and you need to just work a little bit around it, because if you take the salt, you can't use soy anymore. And if you take Coca-Cola, you basically make no iced carrot juice, meaning you cannot cook anything up without other ingredients in conjunction with it. And how you then come to the degree of knowledge that you can most likely be some kind of certain about that you're partially right, is if you understand how this intervolves with your spirit, and how does your spirit not feel but suddenly view the ideas you have on what the world is. And there we come to the difficult point. Now, objective truth is always true. Subjective truth, always true by objective truth. And there's a problem. An example would be, I take a mood cigarette, or better said, I take some leaves from the tree and I imprint the structure of the leaves on some kind of music and try to formulate an idea around it. If it now happens to be so that the music is structured unlike the leaf, that's good. If it happens to be so that if I would implement the music into the idea of the leaves and the leaf structure changes, that's good. If the structure arrives at the same point. Yeah. So how do you now know that something is true or not? Well, you can never be certain. You can mathematically calculate it out, but that's rather difficult, eh? So how I would do it is, with the previous steps now, try to understand what makes me think that I would be certain. And that's the main point of this video. How do you know something is true? Well, you can never, but how can you know that something you think would be true? That you can know by knowing yourself. And therefore the first step comes in. And that's something that Inner Compass very well can achieve for you. And there we come now to the first idea, which I'm talking around now. If something is true, it holds true by things, thought processes, worldly outcomes, relationship or ideas, and also not relationships, but how you interact with each other by couple. Meaning, if some couples tend to interact with the world and other people in the world on some idea, then they will certainly have some reason for it. It's the strongest idea, but never test love, that's rather dumb. So what I would then do to know if it's true or not what I'm thinking, well, the instruction manual now, the last few sentences in this video, if I perceive something to be of absolute evolve further by danger towards the suffocating of devolved desire, then most likely you have something that could or could not be true. That's how you know if something would be true to yourself. And to know truth from wrong is mathematically provable, and to have an instinct for it, in my mind, can be very well achieved by not an experiment, but rather, how I formulate in all these points, by the substrate, meaning substate or substraction, substrate meaning something like substrat in German, but also a little bit different. So something that underpins the structure you want to emulate, and then simulate an experience from that to degree your involvement of yourself with your loved one or just yourself around these ideas. Basically meaning, if a core idea holds some truth, or better said, some truth is surrounded by a core idea, then you have something that will most likely be true if so happens that the core idea is not devaluated, which is a very important point. Objective moral can never be devaluated by objective moral. Just forms a new set of camp. Meaning, a core idea holds true. Any further idea to that means it's true and doesn't new formulated, which gives you a fundament, which then implements the core idea into something that brings about the destructuring of the further development from core ideas, which is then the fundament. So what is a core idea then? A core idea is a hypothesis that proves true to some degree in experimental value. Or better said, an experiment. Meaning, how do you know a core idea is true and has some truth? Well, it puts out further ideas that intertwine with new core ideas to be found. Thank you for listening.